This lesson is an introduction to linear functions. In a previous unit in this course, you learned about relations in functions. An equation with two variables defines a relationship between a set of input x values and output y values. The set of all inputs is the domain of the relation, and the set of all outputs is the range. For this equation, if you input x equal -2, the output y is 2 times -2 minus 1, which is -4 minus 1, which is -5. So there's a relationship between an input x equal -2 and an output y equals -5. For an input x equal -1, the output y is 2 times -1 minus 1, which is -2 minus 1, which is -3. So there's a relationship between an input x equal -1 and an output y equals -3. For an input x equals 0, the output y is 2 times 0 minus 1, which is 0 minus 1, which is -1. So there's a relationship between an input x equals 0 and an output y equals -1. Of course, these are only a few of the infinite number of pairs of x and y related by the equation. Also, this relation is a function because each element of the domain maps to only one element in the range. In addition, this function is a linear function. If you organize some of these xy pairs into a table, and graph them, you can see they're all points on a single line. The word linear comes from a Latin word that means line. In general, any function of the form y equals ax plus b is a linear function whose graph is a line. A good way to begin to understand linear functions is to graph linear functions. To graph a linear function, calculate a point at x equals 0, a second point to the left, and a third point to the right. Draw a line through the points, and you have a graph. Here's how you do that in detail. Substitute x equals 0 into the equation. This gives 1/2 times 0 plus 2, which is 0 plus 2, which is 2. Save the ordered pair 0, 2 in a table. Since the x variable is multiplied by 1/2, the next two values need to be divisible by 2. So substitute x equal -2, a point to the left, into the equation. This gives 1/2 times -2 plus 2, which is -1 plus 2, which is 1. Save the ordered pair -2, 1 in the table. Then substitute x equal +2, a point to the right, into the equation. This gives 1/2 times 2 plus 2, which is 1 plus 2, which is 3. Save the ordered pair 2, 3 in the table. Then graph the points. Draw a line through the points and you have a graph of the linear function y equals 1/2 x plus 2. Remember, you can use function notation when you talk about the value of a function. F of x equals 1/2 x plus 2 can be used instead of y equals 1/2 x plus 2. Then you can say f of 2 equals 1/2 2 plus 2, which is 1 plus 2, which is 3. And so f of 2 equals 3. Also, linear functions can be used to model many things in the real world. For example, if you can average 12 miles an hour for 8 hours while riding your bike, the distance you travel is modeled by the linear equation y equals 12x. Of course, in the real world, you have to scale your graph. In this example, hours is plotted on the x-axis, with one grid mark equal to 1 hour. Miles is plotted on the y-axis, where one grid mark is equal to 10 miles. Then the points on the graph show how far you've traveled for each hour. This lesson was an introduction to linear functions. And this lesson was brought to you by the Math Fun Academy. Its continuing mission: to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new math and new equations, to boldly go where no math student has gone before.